Welcome to the next episode of our Focusing Pathways podcast. We have a very special guest with us today, as Trace has the honour of speaking to Carmel Heaney. Carmel is one of the Irish Focusing Network's most treasured members. In this episode, she talks about the benefits of being a centenarian plus and how this makes life simpler in many ways, and also about the process of discarding and letting go. Carmel discovered focusing after retirement, and it has been part of a bigger journey of understanding herself and enhancing her close relationships. She describes how focusing helped her with issues that arise in daily life and how it brings a sense of connection with the cosmos. We invite you to relax and receive Carmel's pearls of wisdom.
So I'm really delighted to welcome you, Carmel, to our Focusing Pathways podcast. It's a great honour to have you.
Thank you very much, Therese. I'm very pleased to be here.
Yeah, it feels for me like a very special episode and a great privilege to be chatting to you today, especially as you celebrated last year, I think in 2024, your 100th year.
Yes, indeed. I am now a centenarian plus.
And how is that?
Oh, I feel very comfortable actually, because now I feel I can put everything behind me. I'm sort of in countdown phase. And in some ways, it makes daily life simpler and less stressful because I can simply write off things. For example, the news. I have decided, for example, I was always avidly interested in current affairs because I spent my professional life in diplomacy. So I would always be very interested in what was going on in other countries and so on. But I have decided that I'm going to have a Trump-free existence. I am not going to follow the shenanigans of Donald Trump, which is pointless because I'm not going to live through the havoc that he's going to wreak on the world. It just won't be here. So why am I bothering about his latest sort of body blow to the world system and to all of us?
Yeah, I really can relate to that, the wanting to just not engage with all that, and that makes your life simpler. And I really like your phrase, a body blow to the world system. It does feel like that.
And I can also discard unwanted possessions, things that I once thought were useful in my life and which I will never use again, especially my clothes, of course. And I have, unfortunately, my niece who helps me, she has a friend who is a retired nun and is on a very low income and is about the same build as I am. So my clothes fit her very well. So I'm not able to pass on the clothes in my wardrobe, which I'll never wear again, and which were expensive and very wearable. Even still, I can now pass them on to a good cause.
Yeah,
So
I
those are
really,
the benefits of being, some of the benefits of being 100.
yeah, I can really hear that sense of letting go, Carmel, and how simpler
Letting go.
that makes life.
Yes, letting go is one of the foundations of good mental health, I suppose, and I think you're facilitated in your old age to do this.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's as though that's the time of life where it's okay to do that, to really
Yes.
let go of all the things that we've been carrying with us.
Yeah.
And Carmel, I'd love to ask how focusing came into your life.
Well, focusing came into my life quite late. I was actually retired, and I went on a holiday with my cousin, whom I'd known all my life. And you know the way you go on holidays with somebody that you think you know very well, but you have never actually spent 24 hours a day with them. And spending 24 hours a day with my cousin proved to be a difficult relationship. We managed to finish the holiday still on speaking terms, but only barely. And she gave me a copy of Eugene Gentlin's book on focusing. So she also obviously must, each of us would have been suffering from the difficulties we were facing in our different ways of approaching life and doing the small things, agreeing on the plans for the day and so on. So she must have identified, oh, as obviously she would, um, the difficulties, and she thought that she must have been doing focusing. I'd never heard of it before. She must have thought that focusing would help me. So she gave me this book, and I started to study it. And then uh, probably not very long afterwards, but I mean a year or two afterwards, I had a rather serious uh, difference of opinion with my sister. And I actually thought uh, I was in the right on the issue. I mean, I tried to look at it dispassionately, and I decided that, yes, I was on the right, but I couldn't prolong a difference with my only sister. So I did a course in the adult education center of the Dominican convent in Sign Hill. I did a course with a woman who was a psychologist. She was a nun, but she was a trained psychologist. And that helped me to kind of look at my personality and see where I could adjust. Um, so somehow I got into the formal focusing um, when I met Mairead O'Brien, who of course was the person who introduced it or developed it in Ireland. And I went to, I'm not sure which came first, going to Mairead privately, which was very, very helpful, or going to some of the focusing workshops, because then I was connected to the focusing community. And I went to a series of workshops. And the most helpful ones, which I learned a lot from, were the inner child and the inner critic. And I discovered that these were the two syndromes that were governing my behavior and my my temperament and my way of relating to other people. And those workshops threw a great light on the difficulties I'd had with my cousin and with my sister. So for a number of years then, I more or less kept in the focusing scene. And I didn't have a focusing partner, but I had these partnerships in the workshops. And then when at that time, there was no online focusing, of course, but when the online focusing and the Zoom program started, having I sort of didn't practice focusing very regularly, probably for a few years, although I would practice it occasionally. But then when the uh, sessions came online, I joined those, and they, of course, are very helpful. And that's a great facility for me. Um, so now I don't attend the online sessions regularly, but from time to time I find some very useful programs, like the series last year of I've forgotten what it was called, of revising your skills, or that was very helpful. And I'm very glad to be put in touch with what's going on in the focusing world through those kind of programs.
Great, thanks, Carmel. It's so interesting to hear how focusing found you. That holiday with your cousin, that was quite difficult, really, to come through, and then her giving you Eugene Genlin's book, and then the difficult relationship with your sister. So it was like your cousin noticed something in you that might benefit from that book. And there was something in you that really wanted a better relationship with your sister that, I suppose, made you in a way seek out focusing, and that course first in Sion Hill, which was to do more with personality, was it? Not so much with focusing.
Yes,
Is that right,
yes.
Karma? Yeah. Yes. And then that led to focusing as well. It's just so interesting. And I'm really curious to know um, how focusing helped with those relationships. I suppose particularly that relationship with your sister, as you said, your only sister.
Um, it's hard to remember. My sister and I had totally different temperaments. She was very extrovert, um, and I mean, she was a mother. She had 5 children. I did not have children, although I was married. Um, and her life had been a family life, and mine had been a career life. Uh, but apart from that, apart from the circumstances, we were totally different in our temperaments and our personalities. Um, well, we had a good relationship as adults, except that we did have these occasional um, difficulties, which one of which was the one that happened about the same time as I was discovering and focusing. I suppose it's best perhaps described in the context of the Enneagram, which is a discipline that I found also found very useful at that time of my life, um, because I'm in the number 1 Enneagram, which is the person who's a head person. Um, and I'm also uh, I also have the characteristics that I think it's the number 4, which is the very reflective, uh, sort of studious observer person. Now, my sister, I'm not sure which Enneagram type she slots into, but she was the one who would be very optimistic and sociable and outgoing and all the things that I was not. So from the word go, we were on different courses. And that's a very difficult sort of framework in which to live your life. You know, in your own family, you have these 2 people who are looking at life and approaching life in totally different ways. That's quite amazing, really. And it explains a lot about family disagreements and family quarrels. People are just different. And the Enneagram really gets to the bottom of it. It's very, very helpful.
I love that you've mentioned the Enneagram, because that's something, I don't know whether you know, that I work with as well,
Yes,
and
I know.
I teach. And so everything you say makes such sense to me, that people that, we may grow up with, and yet we are so different in our temperament, in our personalities, in how we see the world. And it can be really helpful to recognize those patterns in ourselves and others. And for me, there's something around the power of that in accepting ourselves and in accepting others, and how when we bring focusing into it, then it's like a way of being with ourselves and being with other people. And when you mentioned earlier the inner critic and the inner child, that was what was coming to me. It was this sense of how focusing can help us be with and listen to our inner child and our inner critic. So I really get how finding the Enneagram and then that along with focusing would absolutely help relationships.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. And Carmel, your workshops with and your one-to-one sessions with Sister Mairead, what do you remember of those?
This was something I found hard to get used to, that she would always start by sitting me down and asking me how I felt and asking me, you know, to say how I felt. And I didn't get the hang of this. I didn't know why this was considered useful. But now, of course, I know you have to learn how to sort of listen to yourself. You're not, the way you're going about your daily life, uh, busy and with tasks and encountering people and so on, um, doesn't allow you to know what's going on in the inner uh, recesses of your mind and body. So I suppose the first step in focusing is to just be with whatever is happening in the inner being, which is then connected to the whole cosmos. But I mean, um, we are part of the cosmos, no matter how microscopic I am part of the cosmos and I'm connected to it. So, and this in turn is reflected in my body. Uh, so it's very important to know what's happening. And this, of course, is something that people of my generation in particular, but in people in the Western world and in Ireland in particular, are not educated in. In fact, are discouraged from identifying with their bodies. But this, it doesn't make sense when you really consider the situation. And I think that's where focusing helps, that it encourages you to find the felt sense, not just what you're telling yourself in your mind. And it encourages you to feel how that sense of what's happening or what's that all about, how that can shift. And sometimes you can get a sort of meshing of the gears, which is a marvelous relief and a marvelous experience. It doesn't always happen, but if it does, you feel settled. You feel, okay, I'm in the world. It's okay. I'm in the world. It's okay. To look after me.
That's lovely. There's so much in that, Carmel. So it really sounds like Mairead invited you to pause and to ask that question, how are you feeling? To really notice in your body how you were feeling was something so new. And as for many of us, something so new and something so surprising, and that oftentimes we don't give time to in the busyness of the day. But in that pausing and in that noticing what's happening inside you is an opportunity to, like you say, to connect to something bigger, that we're part of the cosmos, as you say. We're connected through our bodies to everything that's around us and the power of that. And I love how you said about um, how we think we are in our mind can be very different when we check into our body. And that always tells the truth. So when we really listen there, it can be a surprise. And that's the opening, isn't it? The felt sense,
Yeah.
like you say, that can bring a settling. When we stay with it and listen, there can come a felt shift or not, but there can be a settling, just having paused and listened inside.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, so from that very first experience with Mairead and the learning to listen to yourself, is there anything else that stands out from that early focusing time in your life?
I suppose I learned how difficult it was for me just to listen. We all think that listening is something you just do, but there is a kind of listening that is a skill and that has to be learned. And of course, the whole understanding of listening goes back through the centuries, right through to Saint Benedict, who founded Western monasticism. The first rule of his order was ausculta, listen. That was the very first skill that the monks had to learn, how to listen. And that has been, that knowledge, that way of knowing um, is reflected in the wisdom of the ages. Focusing is a modern sort of development of a skill that wise people and wise communities have always known. The desert fathers and mothers, for example, practiced that kind of listening.
Yes. Yeah, that's so important, isn't it? And to recognize that focusing is a development. It's not something that arose, suddenly. It has a very rich past, if you like, coming on, starting back there with Benedict and the first rule of listen first.
It's part of the wonderful development of in the knowledge of human beings, which started at the end of got it. Well, it got a great surge forward at the end of the 19th century with the development of did psychology and psychotherapy and so on. So everything connects, as somebody said. That's a quotation. I'm not sure who said it first, but everything connects.
Everything connects, indeed. And Carmel, I know when we were chatting beforehand, you mentioned your dreams and your interest in them. And I'm curious about focusing and your dreams. Is that something you ever do or have any interest or curiosity about?
Well, I did try, but I didn't have much success. I've never really found a way of making my dreams meaningful in real life. I can try out theories or guesses. Like, what is the dream I had last night about a store of biscuits in my house and a dirty curtain? Well, the only way I could interpret that is by saying that maybe the store of biscuits are all the useless sort of knowledge or like activities maybe that I practiced in my life. But I don't really make much sense of that. And I have very vivid dreams. And when I wake up, I remember them very clearly. And at one point, I did keep a dream journal. And I religiously wrote down everything as soon as I woke up, wrote everything in a book. But, and I also read some articles about focusing on dreams, but it never really got to me. I'm sorry.
It's such a vivid image, though, isn't it? All those old biscuits and something about your sense of letting go, what you spoke about earlier. I think you just said now the useless activities, but something about letting go.
Yes. Yeah, or all the things I have hoarded. I've been trying to organize the sort of how will I describe it? Not a maelstrom because there's no movement, but just that my house is full of papers and documents, not only books, but documents and papers and old essays and research material. And I've been trying to get rid of all this stuff gradually in the process of letting go. I think that comes up in my dreams, like letting go, or maybe those biscuits were all my useless essays and research papers that I should now get my niece, who helps me, to clear out. Because it's so much easier for other people to look at what you think are papers you cannot get rid of. It's so much easier for other people to look at them and say, this is rubbish. Put them in the bin.
Yeah, it needs another perspective, doesn't it? That we're so attached to all these things we have. And Carmel, what's your sense of focusing now, having come to it when you first retired and having engaged with it and been quiet with it then for a while and come back to it again in recent years? What's your sense of its place now in your life, maybe first, and your sense of it, in the world and even as part of the Irish Focusing Network?
Well, for myself, I mean, I would still go to focusing in certain situations where I'm agitated or angry or worried about some issue, which doesn't happen very often, I'm glad to say, but issues do arise. I mean, I belong to a large extended family, and sometimes things are happening that concern me and that are a cause of anxiety. Uh, and in situations like that, focusing is one of the tools I would turn to, especially if whatever difficulty it is was preying on my mind and making me feel agitated and out of sorts. Focusing is definitely a tool in that situation. Um, and I think it must be for other people if it is for me.
Mm.
I think it's a very accessible kind of way of dealing with living in the world uh, because it's simple, although it's difficult, but it is simple. It doesn't involve any great intellectual effort. Um, so, I mean, as I have benefited um, from it, I'm sure other people could too. And I would I would try and suggest it to in certain situations and to certain people who are undergoing um, a difficult time in their lives.
Mm. And Carmel, when you sense in yourself, an agitation, like you say, or a disturbance of some sort, and you feel the need to focus, do you tend to do that by yourself, or would you wait to focus with someone? What would be your preferred way?
Well, I don't do it by myself because I don't have a focusing partner. If I was going on to the Zoom program, I could then deal with it with whatever partner was allotted to me.
Mm. Yeah.
But
And
very often I would have to do it by myself, which is not, of course, the ideal way of focusing.
yeah, I suppose it's nice to be able to do both, isn't it? To do it by ourselves when we need to, and also to have the benefit of doing it in partnership.
Yeah.
Mm. And where would you like to see focusing going, or have you any hopes and dreams for it?
In general, I would like that there would be more people in the world, in our community, who are aware of the inner being in them, which is connected to the cosmos. For example, what about our politicians? Uh, I'm one of the things I'm dissociating myself from is um, a belief that our democratic system is working very well. It isn't. And I think the party political system is disastrous. It just feeds egoism and self-interest. Uh, and I would like more people in public life as well as in private life to be tuned in to the values that are the best human values and to be tuned in to human values and this can be done through, this happens through becoming aware of the wisdom available, of which I'm focusing is only one discipline, but it could be a very important one. I can't imagine that any of our public figures pay much attention to how what they're doing in public life relates to the common good in the way in which the common good can be related to individual good living.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're really wanting to really bring that connection with inner being that focusing brings, and how that might enhance the lives of our public representatives and connect them more to the common good, the values of being human. Yeah. Thanks, Carmel. So we're coming to the end, Carmel, and I'd love to just ask you, from your unique perspective, as you say, a centenarian plus, what would you like to say to people? I'm sure there are lots of people wondering, delighted to hear you and thinking, wow, gosh, how is she so good and well? And what's the secret to getting to your age and being so well?
Well, I think it was a gift. I think I was a very slow learner, and the gift is to be given length of days in the scriptural words, which brings fullness of life. But this is a gift. It's grace, whatever you want to call it. It's what, in the words of Thomas Aquinas, what we call God, but that word doesn't really do justice to what is available through grace.
That's very beautiful, and thank you, Carmel. So is there anything else that you'd like to share before we finish? Is there anything that feels important?
Well, I'd like to, as it were, metaphorically hold hands with all the wonderful people I have met and focused with over many years, and hope that they and their family and friends will have the opportunity of sharing the benefits of focusing.
Thank you, Carmel. That's a lovely way to finish. And can I just take this time to thank you? And I know that we in the Irish Focusing Network are so delighted to have you as one of our members. And Elaine and I are really grateful that you agreed to come and do a podcast. And I know so many people will enjoy listening. So thank you so much, Carmel. It's been a privilege.
It's a pleasure, Therese. I really enjoyed that conversation.
Thank you.